right now on Arkansas Crime Watch.
There's obvious signs that lent itself to the possibility of foul play.
An elderly man murdered.
I don't feel like a 70-year-old man deserves that in the middle of the night.
Who found the victim and how neighbors are reacting.
Was leaving on our way home.
A good Samaritan to the rescue.
I guess I was just in the right spot at the right time.
What she did for a crime victim that may have saved his life.
Me not bother nobody.
A home riddled with bullets.
It's scary, and I'm shocked that it happened because nothing ever happens down here like that.
What authorities say happened and who's now behind bars.
Through 75 counties and hundreds of investigations, from the most violent crimes to petty infractions. This is Arkansas Crime Watch with Kevin Kelly.
A 72-year-old man found dead in his home. Tonight, the White County Sheriff's Office is investigating it as a homicide. Good evening and thanks for watching Arkansas Crime Watch on Fox16.com. I'm Kevin Kelly. The crime happened Wednesday in McRae after a neighbor made the startling discovery. Our Claire Kreitz has more on the victim and the investigation.
People work, mow their yards, and go on.
A small, quiet neighborhood now filled with police officers and detectives searching for answers.
Stuff like this doesn't ever happen. It's not supposed to.
Brian Cook has lived on Lynn Street in McRae for close to 8 years and has never seen anything like this.
Got up this morning, looked around, there was just cops everywhere.
About 6:45 this morning, White County Communications received a 911 call of a possible dead person inside a home.
According to Sheriff Philip Miller, a neighbor was checking in on 72-year-old Keith Crisco early Wednesday morning when they made the call. When deputies got there, they found Crisco dead inside his home with trauma to his head.
There's obvious signs that lent itself to the possibility of foul play being involved, so they backed out, secured the crime scene.
Detectives were called in and this death became a homicide investigation.
They've been actively working the crime scene, doing interviews.
Along with talking to neighbors, detectives are speaking with a person of interest.
I don't want to call that person a suspect, but a person of interest at this point. You know, that may or may not be the only person out there.
While it's still early in this investigation, neighbors hope the person or persons responsible are put behind bars.
But I don't feel like a 70-year-old man deserves that in the middle of the night. It's pretty pretty low.
So far, no arrests have been made in this investigation. Sheriff Miller asks if anyone has information to please call the sheriff's office. A Pine Bluff man accused of killing 3 people, including his mother, has now been formally charged. 19-year-old Michael Moore faces 3 counts of capital murder and abuse of a corpse. Police believe he stabbed a man on New Year's Eve outside of a restaurant. Then, days later, killed his mother and another man. Moore is currently being held without bond. If convicted of capital murder, he could face life in prison without the possibility of parole or dead by lethal injection. Little Rock police need your help figuring out who killed a man in a hit-and-run accident. Police say on February 10th, Anthony Stewart was hit by a car shortly after midnight along the 4500 block of Asher Avenue. 2 weeks later, Stewart died from his injuries. Question is, who hit him? Right now, investigators have limited information, but if you can help or know anything about the crime, call police. The number is there on your screen. In tonight's crime report, a Little Rock woman is afraid to be in her own home after it was shot at for the 2nd time this year. The first time happened in January. The second time, just a few days ago. Haley Brooks has reaction from the homeowner and those who live nearby.
Now, I spoke with the person who lives in this house. They don't want to be on camera for safety reasons, but they tell me that this house has been shot up 2 times this year. The first time happened in January, and you can still see bullet holes that are left behind, but another time happened just a couple nights ago, and they say someone knocked on the front door, then walked around to the back, knocked on the back door, then came, opened this window, and started shooting inside.
Me not bother nobody.
1 o'clock in the afternoon on Boyce Street is extremely quiet, but the same cannot be said for this same time a few days ago.
Snatched that one up and threw that gun over there. Time they bow, 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 you know, and I holler, you and they ran.
This 70-year-old woman says someone knocked on her front door, then the back door, before opening a side window and shooting into her home.
They made my grandbaby was running. We laid down on the floor, called the police.
Little Rock police report 5 shots were fired and 1 bullet was even found in the freezer.
What you gonna come to my house for and shoot my house up? This is the second time, you know.
This house was a target of another shooting in January that left a lot of bullet holes. But this time, police arrested 2 people. 21-year-old Kaveda Starr is facing charges of possession of marijuana, while 20-year-old Kelvin Dilworth is facing 2 charges of terroristic acts, possession of marijuana, and possession of instrument of crime. A couple doors down, we spoke with neighbors Priola and John Lockhart, who have lived in this home for 39 years.
It's scary, and I'm shocked that it happened because nothing ever happens down here like that.
Following the arrest, the Lockharts hope the neighborhood can go back to being quiet.
Hope everything will get better. That's what we hope. And nobody don't get hurt or killed or nothing.
As for the homeowner, she still doesn't feel safe.
We don't stay here because we're afraid to stay here.
Now, the owner of this house says her and her grandson are scared to stay here, but they just don't have any other options at this point. For now, reporting in Little Rock, I'm Haley Brooks. Back to you.
As for the shooting that happened back in January, Little Rock police say the homeowner's grandson was arrested for a shooting that happened on Napa Valley that left 2 people seriously injured. A few days after his arrest, her house was shot up several times. Police believe those 2 shootings are in fact connected. A Conway man now faces a number of charges after being caught trying to sell drugs to an officer. 24-year-old Brian Gomez was arrested on Tuesday after authorities say he set up a meeting to sell drugs to a person who turned out to be an undercover cop. Police found 14 ounces of meth and a firearm. He now faces charges of trafficking a controlled substance, possession of drugs and a firearm, unlawful use of communications, loitering, and unauthorized use of another person's property. Police in Manila, Arkansas are investigating an officer-involved fatal shooting. Police responded to a disturbance call Tuesday night at a home just off Highway 18 in Mississippi County. According to the police chief, Officer Mike Shively got into a physical altercation with 37-year-old Christopher Palmer. His parents, who were inside of the house at the time, says he's schizophrenic and that the officer started asking questions when things took a turn for the worse.
He said, stop or I'm going to tase you. And he didn't tase him. He just, grabbed his gun, his side piece, and shot 6 shots in his direction.
Officer Mike Shively has been placed on administrative leave as this investigation continues. Conway police arrest 23 people following a warrant roundup dubbed Operation Spring Cleaning. Conway police, probation and parole officers, along with agents with the U.S. Marshal's Office, hit the streets armed with roughly 40 warrants. Suspects were wanted for absconding, probation violations, and drug charges. Those not arrested are still being sought. We begin tonight's Crime Tracker report in Jefferson County, where several narcotics, stolen property, and firearms have been seized by sheriff's deputies. According to a report, deputies found the illicit items at a home on Webster Road in Pine Bluff. They arrested Thomas Welch shortly after, who has been charged with possession of drugs and firearms and theft by receiving, as well as other charges. Deputies in Cabot investigating allegations of animal cruelty end up making an arrest. 55-year-old William Todd Graves was booked into the Lonoke County Jail after deputies discovered the maltreatment of 2 horses on his property. But that's not all they discovered. Deputies also found marijuana, methamphetamine, and fake license plates. His bond was set at $5,000.
That could have been me or anybody else, and I know I would want someone to help me.
A Little Rock woman steps in to help a man who was stabbed Tuesday. It happened at the intersection of West 36th and Gilman Street. Alexis Wainwright spoke exclusively to the woman, who didn't think twice about lending a helping hand.
Was leaving on our way home.
What started off as a typical Tuesday,
A black man walking down the street.
quickly changed after a woman saw what she couldn't believe.
His clothes was tore up, and he didn't have no shoes on, and he had blood and stuff on him.
Wednesday, a woman who didn't want to be identified takes us through the moments when she saw the guy who needed help walking alone on Gilman Street. Suddenly, her and her friends decided to turn around and help.
I got out and asked him, was he okay? And he said no.
Police identified the victim as Alan Williams from Dallas, Texas. Although he was hysterical, this Little Rock woman says she still wanted to help, so she called 911 and then stayed there to keep him awake and alert until emergency crews arrived. According to a police report, the man said he was stabbed by a bald man with gold teeth. Meanwhile, the Good Samaritan says it was fate.
I guess I was just in the right spot at the right time. God sent me that way so that he knew that that man needed some help.
Police say the victim was released from the hospital, but if you know any information that could lead to an arrest, please call the Little Rock Police Department. Tonight's Mug of the Week goes to this man, Archie Owens. The 57-year-old was recently booked into the Saline County Jail on a number of charges, including careless and prohibited driving, driving while intoxicated, first offense, and refusal to submit to a chemical test. As we leave you this evening, here's a look at Arkansas's Most Wanted. We do want to remind you, all of the suspects you've seen tonight are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Remember, if you have any information on any of these cases we talked about, you're asked to call your local police department. Thanks for watching Arkansas Crime Watch. I'm Kevin Kelly. Be smart, be safe, and if you see something, say something. I'll see you tomorrow night on Fox 16 News at 5:30 and 9.